One sweltering evening on a Mississippi Delta plantation, the Pollitt family has come home for Big Daddy's 65th birthday, and everyone thinks they've been hurt enough to deserve what they came for. Williams built the whole thing around a single word.
I don't know.
Mendacity.
Oh, yes.
Didn't you notice a powerful and obnoxious odor of mendacity in this room?
It is Richard Brooks' 1958 adaptation of the Tennessee Williams play, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
What is the victory of a cat on a hot tin roof?
Just stand on it, I guess. Long as she can.
Hello, I am joined once again with Fish Jelly. We are returning to talk about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof after just talking about Boom as part of our Tennessee Williams collection of movies.
Tennessee and Liz, I guess. We've done a trio of those three.
Yeah, I'd never seen this movie before until watching it for this, but it's like definitely like the movie title, the image of Elizabeth Taylor, I've always been aware of it. And so I'm really happy that we had this opportunity to finally watch this.
I am too. I haven't watched this in years and years. But also not to keep talking about my thesis on Sunday last summer, but I, was reading all of these plays and watching these film versions, multiple film versions of Cat actually. And, the image of Liz Taylor on the bed for 1958 is like her inviting you in with her. There's a high titillation factor in this film.
I didn't realize there were other film versions of the play.
I was going to wait to bring that up, but if you like this, there's a pretty good, I think it was made for television, 1984 version with Jessica Lange as Maggie the Cat, Tommy Lee Jones as Brick, and I believe Kim Stanley, I think, is Big Mama from Seance on a Wet Afternoon and Francis.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I'll check that out. On this one, I didn't really look up the history of it, but I'd be really excited to talk about because, yes, you did your thesis on Suddenly last summer, and I feel like there's a lot of connections, some things that happened in the middle of this movie, what's revealed. I was getting glimpses of, someone from the past, it's like alluded to of, were they just friends? Were they more than friends? So I'm like excited to see the connections and the inspiration between that and Something Last Summer.
I think through a lot of his plays, especially Streetcar 2, it's not in the film version, but Blanche Dubois' first husband that she has fled from or has left her, I think was also more explicit in the play that he was gay. So yeah, these figures and moments from the past continually haunting everyone. Yeah, it's pretty prominent.
A common theme throughout.
Yes.
It would be fun to also compare and contrast because we talked about Boom most recently also.
Bonsai!
As you were saying that a lot of these themes he's already talked about more eloquently. And yeah, this movie, it felt very fresh, the things that were happening. And I feel like there's multiple reveals in this movie that I was really surprised by. It kind of kept escalating over and over again. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, and to speak on Boom and later plays, I think he became, well, I think he was a heavy drinker. But also I think those same themes were becoming more and more abstract. And I think in an effort probably to distance himself from the past plays, but saying the same thing again. So I think that might be part of the reason they suffer.
Boy, I've lived with mendacity. Now, why can't you live with it? You've got to live with it. There's nothing to live with but mendacity.
Oh, yes, sir. You can live with this.
That's not living. That's a dodging away from life.
I want to dodge away from it.
And son, why don't you kill yourself?
I'm assuming you've read the play before.
I didn't reread it before, although I have a vintage paperback copy, but the play is more explicit.
Explicit in?
That Brick is a homosexual and had feelings or fling with his dead friend Skipper.
Skipper is dead, and I'm alive.
Maggie!
Maggie the cat is alive. I'm alive. Why are you afraid of the truth?
Skipper's not mentioned until like 30 minutes into this movie.
Skipper's like Sebastian, really, in Suddenly Last Summer, the dead homosexual whose fate is still haunting everyone.
The waiters, police, people ran out of buildings back up to where cousin Sebastian. He was lying naked on the broken stone.
It's interesting in this one, though, there's a lot of pressure going on.
The pressure also reads as her being very horny.
Yes. And the fact that she is attached to a cat, too. You can't help but like a cat.
A cat heat.
There's definitely that. There's a rift going between them. And for whatever reason, Brick is just disgusted by Maggie. And on rewatch, did you remember?
Well, I think the casting gives it away a bit. Of course, Brick is a very handsome Paul Newman, and Maggie, she couldn't be more beautiful, Liz Taylor.
Stunning, yeah.
Because the film opens hot with sexual frustration and this woman begging this man to sleep with her. And the fact that he doesn't want to clued me in, and I immediately remembered, I think there's some gay undertones here.
Yes. So there was a lot of drama in how they were going to adapt the play. And there were several other directors that were considered or left, like George Cukor, who was really gay, had disagreements over how they were going to adapt or, surgically remove, but more like it, the homosexuality. And then they considered Joseph Mankiewicz, who would later do Suddenly Last Summer, and then the producers settled on Brooks. And all of the dialogue around it was about how homosexuality isn't even needed in this story, so we can just cut it out. But the thing is, it still heavily exists in there. And I think Brooks himself said, you have this man who doesn't want to sleep with Liz Taylor, so the audience is going to be laughing about that. So I think Taylor is such a central figure to not allowing for a complete erasure of the homosexual subtext, both as a woman, an ally of the community, and just what she was able to convey. Because she's kind of like the idiom of Cat on a Hot String. She is kind of anxious and shrill and a representation of all the queer energy that had to be absorbed by the female characters because you couldn't actually say homosexual.
I feel like you have to mention the Hays Code in talking about this film.
So the Hays Code, of course, you couldn't depict homosexuality, but I think that weakened by 1959, which is when Suddenly Last Summer came out, which I think feels a lot more in your face, maybe arguably in a sleazier way. But you couldn't actually say the word homosexuality even until 1961. So that's Advice and Consent by Preminger and Wyler's Children's Hour, which is a remake of his earlier version of that film, where he could actually talk about the lesbianism somewhat in that. Because I remember in Celluloid Closet in the documentary, Gore Vidal, who adapted Suddenly, was bemoaning the fact that they just butchered and butchered and butchered Cat. And they did. But that being said, watching that so far removed from this era as a queer person, to me it seems really obvious. And I almost, in some ways, ahead of its time, but people are willfully ignorant, and
you can choose to assume it's not, though they're just really good friends. Yeah.
Right, or the fact that Brick doesn't like Maggie is because she's pushing him to do that, or whatever alternative they thought that looked like. It doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
And even that tacked on ending where those two finally kind of align as secrets are unveiled and they're up in the bedroom together and he says, Maggie, lock the door. How many quarts of brown liquor has he had? There is no performance happening whatsoever.
But the situation's not that laughable because we understand that there may have been a tryst between Maggie and Brick's dead friend, Skipper. So that made me feel like even though she presents as like the most beautiful, patient woman, perhaps he's just grown to hate her because of what she did.
He kissed me. That was the first time he'd ever touched me. And then I knew what I was gonna do. I'd get rid of Skipper. I'd show Brick that their deep, true friendship was a big lie.
You're just trying to whitewash it.
I'm not. I was trying to win back my husband. It didn't matter how. I would have done anything. Even that.
So I think that kind of covers up the obvious, like, well, he must be gay if he doesn't want to sleep with Elizabeth Taylor.
For my first time watching this, it didn't click to me that Brick was gay, honestly. And the way that the movie starts with him on the track field and he ends up like breaking his leg, and then he's just like a rampant alcoholic. I'm like, this man is stuck in the past. He's addicted to alcohol. Like that's a lot of this the dialogue is all about how he drinks too much. It's like his like biggest characteristic. So I did find it strange that Elizabeth Taylor, looking at the way she does, like why he's not sleeping with her. And Maggie first brings up Skipper. I didn't still quite connect what was going on, but then she talks about their wedding night or the first night of their honeymoon, they end up going to like one of his football games so he can be with Skipper. And that's why I leaned up. I was like, this is what's going on.
Well, even the physicality between Newman and Taylor, and I think that they were trying to convey what couldn't be said in the script. She's laughing about the little no-neck monsters, and it's that great shot of her in the mirror, and he's pointing this crutch at her like a gun. She can tell that she sees disgust and hatred, maybe.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Like what, Maggie?
Like you were just looking?
But then she tries to turn it into a sexual moment.
Yes, and I think anybody that's ever been in a relationship, there's a universal aspect to that too, is, we're married, so that justifies a certain kind of ownership or agency over your body. Like, I want you to perform for me, why aren't you? And I'm using that as a way, like she's allowing herself to be a victim by his rejection. And it's I think uncomfortable to watch, but I think people don't, especially back then. She reminded me a lot of my grandmother, who was married to a man that she did not love. And I doubt she ever tried to have sex with him like that. But still, this situation that we're tossed in together, she's basically telling him, like, I wish you'd get ugly so I'd stop feeling this way.
Yeah. And that was my like gaydar kind of picked there. Her calling him like pretty, I was like, oh, this something. He is like, he's gorgeous. He's so beautiful. And there's just so funny how it can feel gay just for a man looking so beautiful like that. Like he's like comparably like as beautiful a version of a man as Elizabeth Taylor is a woman. So they're perfectly matched.
Both of them have these kind of eerie but amazing looking eyes.
Yeah.
Almost like sparks in their expressions watching both of them.
Which I read somewhere that they chose to make this movie in color because Suddenly Last Summer, Night of the Iguana, like those were in black and white, but they chose to put this one in color because these two stars have incredible looking eyes. Like we need to highlight that.
We thank them.
Yeah.
And I don't believe Paul Newman got along with her because she had no sense of time and was late a lot, so there was some frustration. But to comment, that opening where he's drunk doing the hurdles and injures himself, to me, it reads very similar, like the homosexual version of a John Cheever story, that kind of masculinity that's threatened by age. But there's so much more going on with Brick and his alcoholism. The thing I remember, because I saw this as a kid, because of course, as a little gay boy, I had a Liz Taylor obsession, and I watched this with my parents. The line that I always remembered, and I said it right as it was happening, is when Brick says that he needs to drink until he gets the click.
Something hadn't happened yet.
What's that?
Click in my head.
Did you say click?
Yes, sir. That click in my head that makes me feel peaceful.
That resonated with me because I didn't quite understand what that meant as a child, and it always kind of frightened me.
That you can consume something and it alters you in that way.
Yes.
And then Big Daddy also says that in the basement he has a great line, the click in it wherever his cancer is or wherever that is too. So that's so interesting, the parallels and the connection between the father and son.
But getting back to the opening on the football field, do you think that's a hybrid of him trying to prove his masculinity but also being closer to Skipper?
I think he's thinking of Skipper and days gone by. I remember reading people's different theories about the diseases and the injuries in this film and what that meant. And maybe his leg is a phallic symbol that's also broken. And the illness that Big Daddy's suffering from is not a spastic colon, but probably some kind of cancer. To me, that reads more like stomach cancer. But I remember somebody saying like, oh, they were trying to hypothesize that Big Daddy was suffering from like bowel cancer because he was also homosexual, because there were parallels with how he treated his wife.
That's interesting. Well, he also makes a point, Big Daddy's always saying how beautiful Elizabeth Taylor is, but he really treats women
Like
their only purpose is to have children to then help out with his property. He treats his wife, Ida, like Ida treats Elizabeth Taylor like everyone's treating everybody like And again, that's kind of why I didn't quite connect. Brick did kind of come off as like kind of an angsty teenager in a way. He was livid about everything. Like he was upset about Big Daddy. He was annoyed with his mom. He was annoyed with his wife, annoyed with his brother, annoyed with their kids. Like just everything irritated him. But it makes sense connecting it back to he's homosexual.
He's homosexual and kind of suffering from arrested development. He's also spoiled. He's the golden child of the family that everyone clearly favors.
I want Brick. Where's my Brick? Where's my only son?
We'll talk about that because at the house is Brick's brother, Gooper.
Played by Jack Carson, who you should recognize from Mildred Pierce.
He's the husband?
He's conniving against Mildred in that film.
Gooper's married. with children. Those little no-neck monsters.
The little no-neck monsters.
One of those no-neck monsters hit me with some ice cream.
Now, why did you call Gooper's kitties no-neck monsters?
Because your brother's children got no necks, that's why.
Where does one come up with an insult?
I know.
No neck. I just read subtitles. I couldn't tell what she was saying at first.
I mean, this film is, of course, very Southern. I think there are a lot of Southernisms in this as well.
But they're there for their dad's birthday.
Yes, who they all know is coming back from the clinic. They're kind of circling like vultures on Carry On. They know that he might be dying. And so that is also motivating what's going on that day.
Mm-hmm.
The brother's an attorney by trade.
Yes.
And is very concerned about who will inherit the family business and the 28,000 acres.
And he's the oldest son.
Yes.
He's the oldest, but I think getting back to what you said, I think the casting's curious because arguably Brick is more attractive than Gooper.
But
Yes.
A lot.
And I wonder if the dad wishes, like, he could be Brick because Brick was athletic and good looking and has the most beautiful woman on his arm.
He's living vicariously through him a bit. And that's why he's able to forgive what a train wreck he is. Because basically, he gives him an ultimatum, like, if you get your together, I'm going to give you everything.
Big Daddy wanted me to become a lawyer. I became a lawyer. He said get married. I got married. He said have kids. I had kids. He said live in Memphis. I lived in Memphis. Whatever he said do, I did. All right.
I felt so bad for Gooper because he says, I don't know why Dad doesn't like me. He wanted me to be an attorney. I'm an attorney. He wanted me to get married. I got married. He wanted me to have kids. I have kids. And he still favors your drunk ass. And then even at the peak, which we'll get to, the confrontation between the two, the dad is still like, I would rather give this to you.
Right.
If you could just pull it together for a little bit.
Yes. Oh, and I feel bad for Gooper, also married to Madeline Sherwood. As Sister Woman Queenie, who is such a shrew.
Ever in your born days ever hear such a bald-faced lie?
Shut up.
It's interesting because she's an antagonist. Gooper's kind of an antagonist. But you see why they act the way they do and why they're going after what they want.
Ever since Big Daddy's health started failing him, Gooper has worked like a fool to keep this place up.
May.
Well, Gooper won't admit it. Well, he never thought of it as a duty.
May!
She's like very supportive of her husband, but it's almost like there's something about this movie, a theme of like if you want it too much, then you can't have it.
Exactly.
Maggie like desperately wants to get with Brick. Brick's like repulsed. Ida desperately wants to get back, like be connected with her husband. He's like repulsed. Brick's not really motivated to inherit this land.
Empire.
He fully rejects it.
You wanted somebody to lean on, why, Skipper? Why not me? I'm your father. I'm Big Daddy me. Why didn't you come to your kinfolks, the people that love you?
You don't know what love means to you. It's just another four-letter word.
Oh, you got a mighty short memory. What was there that you wanted that I didn't buy for you? Answer me
Can't
that.
buy love. You bought yourself $1 million worth of junk. Look at it. Does it love you?
Who'd you think I bought it for me? It's yours. The place, the money, every rotten thing's yours. I don't want things!
And just the setting and everything and the event that's happening and the fact that Big Daddy might be dying and then we find out that he's not dying, only to, spoiler, he is actually dying. This is kind of a whiplash of who in the family is going to inherit his land and inherit the company of what they do.
Well, you know, that's almost a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, because that's kind of King Lear too, right? Where King Lear's dying and his two eldest daughters are kind of vying for the land and he favors the youngest, who is kind of absent from the picture for the most part.
Have you seen The Farewell?
Yes, it's been a long time though.
So the idea is that the family knows grandma's dying, but they don't tell grandma. And of course, I was thinking of that film in this one because the family doctor tells everyone except Big Daddy he's dying. So that's also in the background.
Up, yeah.
But tells his two sons. But I told Big Daddy and the women, they don't know. I'm like, oh God.
Because that's the thing about this movie is everyone's lying. And that's mendacity, which I'd never heard of that word before until this movie.
It's not used in day-to-day language, usually. My favorite part of this movie is actually Burl Ives' performance.
Ain't nothing wrong with me but a spastic calling. Made spastic, I reckon, by all the lies and liars I've had to put up with around here. And all the hypocrisy I've had to live with these 40 years that I've lived with you.
He like stole the show. Well, that's the whole thing. The cover is Elizabeth Taylor, so I'm like, oh, this is going to heavily feature her. But there's times where she does an incredible job. But there's like Burl Ives kind of becomes the star. It kind of becomes his story at the end.
I
Do you
agree.
recognize his voice?
As a birthday present when I was a kid, I got a VHS copy of Dear to My Heart or something like that.
Okay.
And I think that he's in that movie. So I recognize him from that.
That is a more obscure.
Yeah.
Most people know, well, at least his voice from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
He's the snowman.
He's the snowman. So he has two key.
Well, okay, that's connecting a lot. I recognize the name Burl Ives, so I like Googled it. That movie popped up. I was like, that must be why I know him.
And the snowman kind of looks like
Well, he's a burly kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of cute.
I could have it wrong, but I looked at, I was like, 65. He looks pretty good for 65. He was 55.
Yeah, he's a
So-
lot younger. Mhm. Poor thing. He didn't get an Oscar nod for this, but he won his Oscar the same year for Wyler's The Big Country.
I've seen every kind of critter God ever made. And I ain't never seen a meaner, lower, more stinking yellow hypocrite than you.
I think it's kind of a dull film, but Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The scene I probably liked the best with him was not in the play. With the reconciliation in the basement, I believe that was changed a lot. And Tennessee Williams was very unhappy with the film version and I think would cite that scene. But actually, I think that's where Burl Ives and Paul Newman kind of elevate this movie.
There's one thing you can't buy in a Europe fire sale or any other market on earth. That's your life. Can't buy back your life when it's finished.
No, sir. Nobody can do that.
Arguably, like the beginning, I love it a lot, but it's kind of campy, you know, with Liz Taylor and the ice cream and the little no-neck monsters, and she's a bitch to everybody too, and maybe getting what she deserves because she's not a nice person either, but as a gay person, I respond to that in a way that it makes me warm inside. But the profundity comes with Burl Ives.
Yeah. It really transforms into a movie towards the end. Because even the way that the first long scene, you can see how it came right off the play, just because they're in that room the whole time, and they do a pretty good job, like shuffling the camera angles and that kind of stuff. But it did feel much like a play. But now the dialogue though is just so well written. It's just so sharp. And again, we're coming off Boom, so it's just this. I was like, wow, he's like at his peak right now.
And I mean, you know, I think the breakout was Glass Menagerie, but he had written several. You know, he started in the 30s.
Oh my gosh.
And Glass Menagerie's sometime late 40s. The first film version of that's 1950. So he was writing for quite a while. But I think this is the sweet spot we're in right here. I mean, some of those lines where Taylor shouts, "I'm sharing the same cage as you."
Just write love brick, for heaven's sake.
No.
You've got to.
I don't have to do anything I don't want to. Now, you keep forgetting the conditions on which I agreed to stay on living with you.
I'm not living with you. We occupy the same cage, that's all.
What made me uncomfortable in the first half as well is that everyone else in the house knows what's going on.
Even the kids.
The kids know.
talking which means
The
the
kids are
parents are
talking
talking
about you can't have kids.
Yeah.
Big Mama is saying there's something wrong because you're childless and my son's a drunk.
Yeah.
Some single men stop drinking when they get married. Others start. Brick never touched liquor
That's
before
not fair.
Fair or not fair, I want to ask you a question. One question. Do you make Brick happy?
And then Elizabeth Taylor's like, what the f-? Like,
Your husband's not happy.
Yeah, why do you ask if I'm happy? It goes both ways.
Right.
Sister Woman says that she can hear Maggie begging for sex. Baby, there would have been a fight. And actually, towards the end, Maggie almost hits Sister Woman. I kind of wanted her to connect, but
You wish that she had.
I don't
yes.
promote violence.
Well, audiences probably would have disconnected from that.
Even Gooper's wife, May, was like a pageant queen or something like that. And Maggie recalls a story where she gets humiliated and thinks it's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, she's cruel too, yeah.
yeah. The difference though is Maggie seems to be really upfront about what she wants.
Let's face facts, baby. You're a drinker, and that takes money.
I don't want his money.
You ready to settle for 10-cent beer? Because that's just what Gooper will dole out to you when they freeze you out.
It's honest that being the child of this man, that he's entitled to some of the inheritance. She's not trying to get all of it for him, but she says he's entitled to it. So there's a way to stick around without brown-nosing in a way that's just like, I'm expected to be here and I will be because I know I will reap the rewards of that, versus trying to commandeer all of it, like the selfish brother and May are doing.
Because everyone's putting on a performance and like not saying what's really happening, even down to like Yeah, basically the whole movie starts out on a lie that the doctor is lying to his patient.
Well, things have changed.
Yeah.
HIPAA violations.
I don't know that I think Maggie is cruel. Well, I think she's defending her man. Because every time she pops up is because someone's talking shit about her husband. And like those kids are brats. So like if you extract her talking shit about those kids, she's really just defending her husband.
I think she's cruel.
She's not cruel to him.
She's cruel about May. She's vindictive. But I think the children also represent something that she can't or doesn't have, that are a symbol of success, right? Like as a woman, as a happily married woman even, or at least faking how to the world that you are, the children are representative of something that she can't have because her husband won't sleep with her.
But May's antagonizing her.
She is, because they're competition in more ways than one.
Well, yes, but I think it comes more from May. May's concerned because she's aware that Big Daddy prefers Brick. So she's concerned that this other lady is going to get everything she wants.
Right, but Maggie's also immature, I think, in lashing out at the actual children. It's not their fault that they're
children.
That they're annoying, not well-bred children. But she's cruel to them. She is.
Yeah. Maybe I'm cruel. I didn't get that from her. Like, that little girl threw cake frosting on her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fair game. I'm going to throw that shit back at you right now.
There's something about her that is still childlike almost. Like, she's going to behave the same way as a child. That kid throws this frosting at her, so she's going to throw it right back at this kid.
Sure, yes.
And then so there's something too about, because she doesn't have like children, she doesn't have the experience of being a mother like May does. So there's a bitterness to it too.
Yes.
And then you can easily like misinterpret it and be like, oh wow, she just hates kids. Like, well no, she's really bitter because she doesn't have kids.
She can't have one. She hasn't learned how certain people we know that I think once you have to
say their name. No.
Once you have to take care of another human being in some capacity, and I mean, I don't have children, I don't want them. But I think you are supposed to reflect on, oh, maybe the way my parents behaved was out of survival, or it wasn't, they were trying to hurt me. It's that
you start to understand the behaviors of your parents, and you're like, I'm going to try to tweak it and improve it here and there.
Sure, hopefully.
The children will grow up and they will
resent you for something.
It's about to happen.
But it's just a passage of life, a rite of passage.
Right.
That Brick and Maggie, they're kind of stuck in an arrested development.
Yes.
So to your point, if he's childish, they had a connection at some point. Something drew these two together.
I think it was as a beard, though.
Yeah, there is a history between them, but the way that Maggie shares the story of his relationship with Skipper, like they were like inseparable. So much so that on their wedding, they're not.
Well, how many stories are there where there are two guys, especially like in the 90s, like all those, what's the one with Nev Campbell where it's like a threesome?
Oh, Three to Tango?
Is that what I'm talking
about? With Matthew Perry, where he comes out as straight?
Yeah. But I feel like that's a common dynamic. But I think getting back to being immature, these three were buddies. And because she was just probably with these two, I'm assuming Skipper was also a beautiful man. So these three beautiful people, loving life. Big Daddy makes it very clear Brick had no responsibilities. So he was spoiled. So they had this fabulous life. But then as she got older and realized like maybe she has this maternal instinct, like she wants kids, she wants to secure the bag for the future. She says it's okay to be broke when you're poor, but it's not
when you're old.
Right. So I feel like as she's
changed.
Maturing, she's realizing this relationship is some bullshit.
Yeah.
But she's also kind of like a quintessential trophy wife too. So it's not going to look bad if you can bag somebody that looks like Liz Taylor.
Yeah.
How does Big Daddy refer to him? You're a 30-year-old kid?
Yes.
That will soon be 50.
Yeah.
That will soon be 50.
How like quickly time passes.
Brick is a prolific, derelict alcoholic. He is on another level. But Big Daddy, I think he seems very patient with Brick.
Skipper and I were friends. Can you understand that?
Cooper and May said that Skipper was...
Skipper is the only thing that I got left to believe in. And you are dragging it through the gutter.
Now, just
you are
a minute.
making it shameful and filthy, you thief.
Give me a hand.
He's so patient. I think when the clique is first introduced, Big Daddy even says, "You really are an alcoholic."
You really are.
Like, whoa.
He's like, "I know I've been calling you an alcoholic, but you are actually
like
an
for
alcoholic."
real, you were an alcoholic. So I feel like he showed concern. I don't want to use the word caring because that's part of Brick's problem with his dad is he doesn't feel like he really loved him, but I'm curious if you felt like Big Daddy.
I think he was incredibly patient. Yeah.
Well, compared to how he treats everybody else, he
doesn't like Gooper, and he doesn't like those kids either.
Which I think that's what there's something to Brick like went away, and he's like pushing the family away, which then in a way kind of it's like a magnetic force, right? It makes them even, they're like, oh my gosh, like, we gotta, that's the other side of it too, is like the family really wants Brick back in it, which then pushes it, they want it too much, so he resists.
Yes. I mean, that's the conundrum, I guess, of human nature.
Yeah. And then Big Daddy, he's dying. His like really attractive, fit son who has this beautiful wife, like he's kind of living vicariously through that son too. So he's like, my beautiful son, he's gonna inherit because he's the most, I want him to be the most like me, even though Gooper's like, I did everything you told me to do.
Poor Gooper.
Yeah.
Well, but also it's like, then you're Boo-Boo the fool then for doing all that.
Well, I think that's why he resents Sister Woman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like he finally gets tired of her and tells her to shut up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he, for different reasons, is repulsed by his wife.
Mm-hmm. It's all of these men are repulsed by their wives.
Yes, well, let's talk about the reasons. Brick is repulsed by his wife because he really wants a man.
Yeah.
I think Gooper resents his wife because he probably only married her because that's what he thought his dad wanted him to do.
And it's convenient. And that point of time, it's like you married quickly. So it might have been a high school sweetheart. They've had a lot of children in quick succession.
And then Big Daddy, I mean, he seems like he can't stand his wife either.
Oh, we haven't even talked about Judith Anderson. Oscar-nominated actress. She's probably best known for playing Mrs. Danvers, also a lesbian character in Rebecca, the Hitchcock film, which was 18 years before this.
That movie is so good. That has a great twist.
Yes.
Have I seen that?
Yes, I believe I have showed you that. Laurence Olivier and Joan. I don't love Joan Fontaine.
Something that I loved from her too, it's a connection between her and Maggie. And she's like, this was never a happy home.
Yeah.
And then when Big Daddy returned with the good news and we were all like so joyful, she was like, for a moment I thought that maybe this would be a house of joy, that you would stay here and you'd have kids and we'd all be happy.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever the way you plan, is it?
Judith Anderson was a great character actor. That obnoxiously large birthday cake, and all the candles are lit, and he's berating her, and that to me was a hard scene to watch.
Yeah.
You know, we learned that there was that big European trip, and there's all these artifacts from it in the basement.
Yeah. I'm like, if this is all from the European trip.
Yeah, they're hoarding it all there. I think Judith Anderson, well, Big Mama, she has sold her soul a little. Big Mama has, and that's why she allows herself to be spoken to that way.
Yes.
So she is complicit in her own terror.
Yeah.
Well, and he resents that.
And he knows that.
Why'd you let Ma buy all this stuff? Human animal is a beast that eventually has to die. And if he's got money, he buys and he buys and he buys. The reason why he buys everything he can is because the crazy hope that one of the things he buys will be life everlasting, which it never can be.
Big Daddy has been told by Brick that he's dying.
Can you face the truth?
Try me.
Or somebody else's truth?
Bull, you're running again.
Yeah, I am running from lies like birthday congratulations and many happy returns of the day when there won't be any.
The way Brick tells him is by accident.
And he believes it because I think in his heart of hearts, he knows the symptoms he's having are not that of a healthy man. And let's talk about that scene in the basement because that's where the epiphany is.
Which is my favorite scene. If I had any feelings, which I don't generally, but if I did in this film, that would have been the scene.
I agree.
Yeah. Now that Big Daddy knows he's dying, he goes to the basement.
Which I think there's a progression also. Also, that's in Last of the Mobile Hot Shots also is this up and down, another repeated Tennessee theme. But I think it's notable that, you know, basically Brick gets his ass kicked down to the basement, the bowels of the house where there's you can't go down any further. Like the truth has to come out here.
And they're surrounded by all these objects that are about the European tour. All these things that are unsaid also, they're in the muck of all that.
Yes, we're stuffing it down. We're not taking anything out to clean off or sell or unload. It's very white, seeming those kind of traditions. But what happens there is this moment between this father and son where this truth seems to come out. And there's an epiphany that Big Daddy has. And this feels very universally human as well. It's that we always try to do the opposite of whatever we perceive our parents did to us that hurt us.
Yes.
And in fact, you create a different kind of hurt, perhaps, because Burl Ives, as Big Daddy, says, you know, my dad didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. He was a gypsy, and I was ashamed of him. But he relates this story that's so touching. I think Burl Ives does it perfectly, is the day his dad died, which they were running for a train and this man's heart gave out, and he said he died laughing. And then his son interprets that as, you know, you didn't give me any love, you gave me things, and I don't need things, but don't you realize that your dad probably died laughing because he was right where he needed to be with the person he cared about the most, his son.
Well, in the way Big Daddy talks about his father, he keeps referring to him as a hobo tramp. Like, because he didn't have money, he wasn't able to give him material things.
All he left me was this wicker suitcase.
All he left me is this empty wicker suitcase.
From the Spanish Civil American War.
But through talking with his son, he realizes, like you said, that what his dad gave him was love and affection. Your dad always kept you with him because he wanted you there.
And Burl Ives, he's doing this thing where he's bringing up the story out of kind of disdain, but he has
a realization
while
while he's speaking.
He's speaking with a sort of like, he's laughing, like there's happiness mixed up in those memories. And it actually reminded me of a scene randomly of Jeff Bridges, who's Oscar nominated for Hell or High Water. There's that shootout in the end, and that his best friend, his right-hand man, this indigenous man, is murdered in cold blood, and he gets the guy that did him, and you can tell he's mourning that loss at the same time as gleeful at the fact that he got that man. And it reminded me of that same mix of emotions on these 2 actors' faces, and I think Burl Ives balances it really well.
It was so good. That's why I was like, wow, this is like becoming his movie.
Right,
It's really powerful. Which I thought, the way the movie was going, I thought he wasn't going to be a main character at all, but it really, it did become his story. But performance-wise too, he just did an incredible job.
Well, he has such a, even if you didn't know any of his other voice work, like the voice is really good.
Yeah.
Well, you can see on Big Daddy's face as Brick continues to reject the money and the property. It's almost like Big Daddy's understanding that it really isn't important. And it's happening in parallel with him realizing that his father really loved him without having anything.
Well, and the tragedy is the father not realizing that you rejecting these things means you're different from the other people that are just trying to gobble up all my stuff.
Which makes you even more...
You're even more deserving of my
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, it's so contradictory, our behavior, but yeah.
But I think it's not until Brick sees his father come to that realization that they come to an understanding, and then Big Daddy extends that olive branch by saying, why don't you help me up the stairs?
Yes, they're both crippled in a way, but what's the line? I think he says, I'm going to have the balls to die if you can have the balls to live.
If Brick had told Big Daddy he was gay, how do you think Big Daddy would have reacted?
I don't think it would be good.
I thought Big Daddy would tell him he loves him, but that he can't share that. Like, he needs to sort of project this like patriarch role and have the family and the kids, and that he would maybe on the side be able to find a man to play with.
Was it even a thing that, like in 1958, were people coming out?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't think that Brick would have come out, but what if Brick said he loved Skipper in a way that maybe men don't normally love men?
I think Big Daddy already knows, because that's why there's all this grilling happening about Skipper. I think that in his heart of heart he knows, and it reminded me of when I came out to my grandmother, who would have been Liz Taylor's age, and she was supportive, but that was the response that I did get was that's fine that you are, but nobody else needs to know that. And I feel like a man like Big Daddy, he's accepting that his son is a flagrant drunk that is refusing his wife sex anyway. Like, they all know the secrets. So I think he'd be fine with that. He just would want his legacy to carry on.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You think Big Daddy would react negatively?
I mean, I don't know how Tennessee Williams would have written it for these characters specifically, but I think it's like 1958, I think, in the South,
Right.
I mean, suddenly last summer, there's the lobotomy over silencing it. So
That's right.
It probably, no, I don't think it would be positive, but I think I would see those two as finding a workaround for it or something.
There's a kind of a parallel things happening though while the basement's happening. Maggie's upstairs holding her out. And what I think is interesting is we got that earlier scene where Maggie is kind of like childlike. I think that's why she always tells the truth, kind of like a child who like can't help, like you'll never get the truth more than from like a child.
Sure.
And so I feel like she's honest about what she wants.
Yes.
And like understand it's like, why are we all like keeping these secrets? Like let's just have sex and have kids. Like let's make it work. But then what's happening when the father and son eventually come upstairs, Maggie says like, oh, and by the way, I'm having a child.
Right. Which is weird because I think for the most part she's kind of uncorrupted. And she has that line in the first bedroom scene where she's like, "You're making me feel cold and cruel." Like she's becoming perverted. But I think the ending is not happy to me at all. To me, that's at the point where she is corrupted because that's where she lies.
And she's rewarded for
She's rewarded for the lie.
And he's like, "Oh, you're willing to do this? Okay, I guess I'll reward you with kids." Which you pointed out, he's really drunk, so they're probably not having sex.
Before that happens, Gooper is trying to show Big Mama the updated will he's come up with.
Ida hates Cooper also.
She throws those papers. How many papers are there? There's so many
Rick
papers.
and Big Daddy come upstairs and they see all the papers lying on the ground. Big Daddy recognizes that's what they were arguing about. He could hear them arguing. It was very clear to me that Big Daddy is very satisfied with the reconnection with Brick. And in lieu of what he's witnessed Gooper and his wife talking about, I feel like he's prepared to just give Brick everything.
He's looking for any excuse, and she was just feeding into that by giving the I have a baby, I'm creating an heir. I mean, I think there's supposed to be great irony in Burl Ives saying, I can see life in her. Because he certainly, that's someone who's emanating death. So I think that's supposed to be, that's something she just needed to say. But I also think that it's a letdown for Maggie, the cat, because she has sold out on herself by lying.
Maggie?
Yes?
Come on up here.
Yes, sir.
The ending is sad to me because we see them going up to the bedroom with the idea that they are going to make a baby.
It's a false ending because at the point where Liz Taylor like chirpily says, "Yes, sir," when he says, "Come upstairs," it's completely clear that this is such a compromised production.
That she'll probably stop being so honest with Brick also.
Yes, her lie has created intimacy between them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so toxic. And the repression of the heteronormative paradigm is on full display there. And it was sold to the American audience that, you know, this is the better version of this material. But that said, within the context of when it was made, I still think it's very powerful if you're willing to go with interpretations of what's presented to us.
Yeah, it was a surprising dark turn. The music though it doesn't feel dark. The score is just kind of like jazzy piano music.
It's very
playing.
typical 50s tacked on.
Well, because is the message that him trying to live this standard normal life is preferred and is the answer?
At all costs, It's about the surface image that matters most. But I don't think it knows what this toxic presentation is that it ends on. That's what the message everybody was believing anyway then. So
what you're saying, when this was shown in like 1958 to audiences, is this like a happy ending?
Yes, that's what I think.
I think it was intended
as a happy ending.
A happier ending than...
Like you would rather live this life than your truth.
Because your truth would not get you the inheritance.
Right.
Well, or I think at that time also, like, it's just wrong to be gay.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. In comparing Suddenly and this film, which one do you think feels more gay?
I Suddenly is just more, I feel like, explicitly obvious with Sebastian and telling that whole backstory.
Right.
But there's something about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof that feels gayer to me.
I felt the same, even though Suddenly is more explicit.
Suddenly it's more explicit, but it's in such a circuitous way that you're like, what are they talking about with the procuring? Like, what does that mean? Here, even today, a young queer person has to kind of mask themselves in a similar way to where Cat almost has a universal appeal. And again, it's less sleazy, really. This is about a person that's a repressed person that's never gotten to be themselves.
And it's great with Suddenly this gay person is dead, can't really speak for himself. So I like in this movie that at least one half of this couple, this friendship is alive, to kind of see what that looks like of someone existing in this time.
Also for Brick, he has genuine feelings about this man. Whereas in Suddenly, Sebastian is a problem. He's a
cold creep.
Sebastian's a predator.
Yeah, that's the word. He's a predator.
Whereas Brick, I think, is just trying to survive a situation that he didn't realize how tough it would be.
And I was surprised to discover that like football played a role in this movie too, that it was sports related.
I want to see a cafe called Skipper and Brick, the original heated rivalry.
Actually, yes. What would you give Cat on a Hot Tin Roof?
You know, I still give it a 4. because I think it is heavily compromised and there's things I don't like, but I do really like, I think there's a lot of passion, as I said, profundity in it. I do tend to like Richard Brooks. I think he had a penchant for perversity as well. I highly recommend looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Oh, I need to see that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's great.
Okay.
In Cold Blood, he's responsible for. I mean, he had a really great run.
I think it's excellent. I would give it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I would give it the same. I might even give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Because there's something too about, like, in Settling Last Summer, it's the whole, like, the Encantados, like, that whole scene where we, like, get, like, Sebastian's backstory. When we got the backstory with Skipper, I was like, okay, this is, like, the big finale of the movie. But then it goes on to the basement, and then we get the story between the father and son. I feel like it just really escalated.
Yeah.
So I thought I was really moved. I was surprised how moved it translated into, it became very much a movie to me where I really felt for Big Daddy's character too.
What a gift.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Tennessee, wherever you are.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me again for the Tennessee Williams story, and I think we should definitely talk about Streetcar Named Desire.
Streetcar,
next.
and I do recommend Sweet Bird.
Yeah, please check out Fish Jelly on YouTube, Patreon, watch their movie reviews, and thank you so much for watching, and please join us next time when we talk about Streetcar Named Desire.
Yes. Stella!